Hi, everybody, and welcome to the fourth lesson of the Human Resource Management in Healthcare course. I'm sorry, that's a huge title, so it's just really, you get it. But anyway, today's lesson is going to be all about job analysis and job design. Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to look at having a job versus positions. We're going to look at job analysis and figure out exactly what that means. We're going to look at different ways you can kind of collect data and different methods you can use in your job analysis and job designing, right? And we're going to look at some legal aspects of job specifications and the changing environment, how we deal with that when we're creating jobs and job design. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, so wait, let me get my pen ready. Okay, so job analysis is actually the cornerstone of strategic human resource management. Okay, because this is the whole process of obtaining information about jobs and determining which jobs duties, tasks, activities, and whatnot are going to be used or to be part of specific jobs. Okay, so this is job design, job everything, just figuring out what's going to be part of a specific job. Okay, job analysis. We analyze the jobs. All right. So this is the foundation of job description and job specifications. Have you guys I'm sure everyone here at least once in your life has applied for a job, right? Most likely. I'm just assuming you have. So, like, let's say going on Indeed to look for a specific, it's for a job that you can apply to and hopefully get. And every time you look at one of those job postings on Indeed, they always have, like, at the top, it's always like a, maybe it'll be like job tasks or job duties or something like that, job responsibilities. And then below that, it will probably say like job qualifications and whatnot for that job. And then, so the job duties and whatnot, that'll just kind of list like all the different things that would be expected for that particular job if you were to, get that job. And then below that, they always have like the job requirements or job qualifications. So it'll list like all the different, like the education, the certifications that you might need for that job, any kind of technical requirements that you would need or any physical requirements. Maybe you need to be able to lift something or whatever. Okay, so those are actually part of job analysis, right? So the first one, job description, this one is that part where it talks about like the duties that you're going to have to do with that particular job. So this is the part of that job posting where it describes the summary of the task, all the different responsibilities that this particular job position requires you to do. Okay, then we have the job specification. This job or this part of a job posting is going to list the requirements for the job. Okay, this is where it'll tell you have to have a bachelor's degree or whatever degree you have to have, or maybe you just have to have high school or GED. Maybe you have to have certain amount of years of experience in something. Maybe you have to be able to lift like 50 pounds, maybe whatever. So like the actual technical requirements for that particular job, for you to be qualified to have that job. Then to kind of collect and figure out how do we form the job specification and job description? How do we even know what would be required or what we should put in the job specification or job description? Okay, so there are a lot of different ways we can figure that out when we're creating a job. Okay, we can We typically use other, data sources and different methods of data collection to figure out that information that we're going to use to create the job specification and the job description. Okay, so some of the methods of data collection that we can use could be observation. So we could just simply watch people who have that specific job, and that way we would be able to maybe take notes and figure out, like, okay, so people who have this job usually have this and this and this duty. You can interview people who have that job, okay, who are doing what you want your employees to do, and then you can figure out, okay, so what are the actual duties do you have for this job? Okay, and then they'll tell you, and then you can be like, okay, so we'll take some of these and put that in our job description. Okay, there are questionnaires you can give out, or surveys. Okay, you can do research like that and collect data. You can ask questions and using some sort of survey platform and just send it out and collect whatever information you can get, and then go ahead and figure out what you're going to include in your job analysis and your job design using that. You can also check job performance of your actual employees. Okay, so maybe you already have a company, you have employees, and you're trying to figure out exactly like what more we can bring to these specific jobs, or how we can make this job grow. What more you can do for this job, or what future employees of this particular job position is going to need to bring to the table. Okay, so you can take a look at job performance and figure out exactly what you want to change, what you like, what you don't like. You can also have your employees right now to write like a diary. Okay, so they can keep record of what they do and what skills they require, things like that, and then what it looks like they may need to do in the future as well. Okay, then there are technical conferences that you can have. You can hold conferences, you can go to conferences, and you can collect data. So there are a variety of different ways in which you can collect data sources from a lot of different people who hold jobs that are similar to the jobs that you want to incorporate in your organization, or maybe jobs that you already have but you want to expand on. Okay. So job analysis and HR. Job analysis, like I said in probably the first slide, it is really the foundation of strategic human resource management. It is a foundation pretty much for mostly all, if not all of HR activities, because this is where it all begins. This is where you create the jobs. This is where you figure out what's needed, what's not needed, and you formulate the job, and that sets the tone for the rest of the whole HR experience, because the next step after this is recruitment, and then selection, and then retention and training, and performance appraisals, and you get into all the other good stuff, but it starts with job analysis. Okay, so in job analysis, you're going to identify the necessary skills and job relatedness for recruitment and retention. Okay, so you're going to figure out what skills you really need for this particular job, and how you're going to be able to find, people who have those skills. Okay, and how you're going to be able to retain people who have those particular skills in your business. Okay, you also want to look at, given all the skills that you may require for your jobs, what is the relative worth of them? What value are they really bringing to your business? Okay, so how heavy are you going to weight the value that these particular skills are going to bring to your business? And how can we monetize that? Okay, what is the monetary value of that as well? Then you want to figure out exactly what type of training might be involved. So after you already have your your employees for these particular jobs, you're going to have to also think about, what kind of training you're going to have to offer to these employees who have these positions, okay? Because you can't just let them be static in that certain position and not really growing their skills, because they're not really helping anyone. They're not even helping themselves if they just stay there. Okay, it doesn't really benefit the business in the future. In the long run, it's not going to benefit the individual if they just never grow, and they're not going to be able to feel a sense of purpose or anything like that, or have even enough autonomy to really feel great about their job, unless you allow them the opportunity to develop their skills and to have more value in the organization. Okay, so training is super important. You need to be able to assess relative job functions for performance appraisal. Okay, so you're going to have to figure out ahead of time how you're going to set the different expectations that you're going to have for your employees who have these particular positions. Okay, before we even create the job or put the job out there and get an employee into this job, you need to figure out what are the expectations going to be. Okay, because they need to know exactly what they're working for, and what levels they have to meet, what objectives, what are their goals, and then you have to be able to say, hey, at this point we're going to check your performance. Okay, and we're going to see whether or not you're able to meet your goals for this year, this month, the quarter, however often you do a performance appraisal. Performance appraisals are super important because you need to give employees goals, and then you need to see how they can match or meet their expectations, how well they meet expectations. Okay, but all this has to be formulated before you even officially put the job out there and start recruiting and start putting all this into action. Okay, so next, you also need to know that this is going to provide the legal basis and defense for managing your HR functions. So you have to have all this figured out, and it has to be in writing. You have to have it all your standards and everything set out, because should anything go wrong, this is going to be your legal basis and defense, okay, in court or anytime there's something that's going to happen, this is going to save you. Okay. All right, so the environment is constantly changing, not just healthcare, but yes, healthcare. But all the environment around us is constantly changing. Okay, every industry is changing. All right, so it's becoming more important than ever to get our our job descriptions correct, right? Okay. So in order to do that, we have to figure out which type of a job analysis approach we want to take when we're creating our jobs, when we're figuring out our job descriptions and whatnot. Okay, so there are 3 different types of approaches that we can take when we're doing job analysis and we're trying to figure out the jobs that we're going to create. The first one is future-oriented job analysis. Okay, so a future-oriented job analysis is where you focus on the future duties of this organization. Okay, so where you focus on the future duties of this particular job. Okay, so you're going to look at think in the future. Okay, what might this particular job require given the way that we're all going, okay, in the future? Okay, where is this world developing? Where are we aiming towards? Okay, so a good way to do this is to look at exactly what you think or what the goals are of the organization, where you're moving, which way you're moving towards, okay, and then discussing that with current people who have these particular jobs and getting a feel of what they believe the skills might be what skills and what focus they feel like someone who has this particular job in the future is going to require. Okay, so you're focusing everything on the future. You're talking to people about what skills might be required in the future. You're looking at expectations of the future everything, right? And then there is competency-based analysis. Okay, so in this type of job analysis, what we're going to look at is we're not really thinking job duties, and we're not really zooming in or on any type of specific skills or anything like that. We're looking more about successful characteristics in an individual. Okay, so like we want to go, you know what, probably the most important thing is, because maybe this is a job or an organization where you can, or this is a position where you can actually train people and get them to do what they need to do. So it doesn't really matter about like the particular specific skill set that an individual has, because you know that you can train them, you know that you can send them to a training program or to get to to take a course or anything like that, and they can develop those skills or get certified for something that you need them to do in the future. But what's important for you is that you get someone that you can, move around. You can, send to go get educated here, go get trained there. You have someone that's willing to work as a team and kind of go with the flow of the organization. And that is actually really important in this like extremely dynamic, changing environment that we have going on right now. Things are crazy. We're not static like we used to be. Like we are changing so fast. So it's very important for a lot of organizations who can do this to look at more of your competencies as opposed to specific skill sets and education requirements and things like that for the requirements and things like that of the future. So what a competency-based job analysis would do would probably base their job analysis on focusing on maybe like team building skills, people who like to work in groups, people who are great with customers, people who just have really good interpersonal relationship skills, things like that. Okay, so you wouldn't necessarily be looking at specific job duties or, education requirements or stuff like that, because you know that you can change that. You can send them off to a training program or anything like that. So anyway, next up is generic job analysis. So generic job analysis will be something that this is actually very flexible, okay? So kind of like competency, but not really. You're just being very, very generic with everything, okay? So less job titles, less job duties, more flexibility. You'll be focusing on things like just getting people who say they want to work in customer service and make it very general, or you want to work as a secretary, just make it super general, nothing specific in your job description whatsoever, because you know that all those job duties can definitely change. Okay. All right, moving forward. Next slide. Okay, so job design. Job design is the process of structuring jobs to enhance efficiency and job satisfaction. Okay, so since right now in healthcare we have this increased level of job specialization. Okay, a lot of people, especially in this crazy changing environment of healthcare, we're always coming up with new technology and new things, new services, new treatments, and also new jobs, right? New job categories and things like that, right? Well, so it kind of can get a little bit difficult to keep up with that changing, okay? And sometimes it might be more beneficial to have your employees, to be able to have employees that you can kind of move around. You can send them off to training, and then they can just have more job autonomy and they can just do more things instead of hiring more people to fulfill those certain roles. So there are certain things that we can do, okay, to sort of change or add more to a job, really. So one thing, one concept we can use is job enlargement. This is increasing the scope, okay? This is increasing the scope of jobs to provide better or greater variety. This is horizontal expansion, okay? So this is increasing the scope of a job would mean adding more duties, more things that particular position, that particular job can do, okay? Just giving that individual more stuff that they can do, developing their skills, training them on more things so you can move them around so much. So you're just giving them a lot of stuff that they're qualified to do. Okay, that would be enlargement. Enlargement. Okay, job enrichment goes the other way. So this is in changing their job or expanding their job upward, right? This is vertical expansion, and this is where you increase the responsibility. You're going to increase their autonomy with the different jobs that they have. Maybe you're going to make them a team leader or something like that. And you're just going to make them in charge of more things, or giving them more decision making, allowing them to make more decisions, or things like that. Okay. Now, all of this can really foster more employee empowerment. Okay, so and when employees feel more empowered, you're allowing them to make more decisions, or having more decisions to be made by the employee. And this is actually a great strategy, because those are the people who are closer to the jobs, closer to those specific duties, so they would kind of know what might be best for that particular job anyway. So giving that employee more empowerment, especially after they understand like the flow and everything that goes on with that particular position, and like what the duties are and how the environment works around that space, they might understand what decisions need to be made. Okay, so allowing them to have more empowerment, if they're, since they're the ones closest to the work, might actually benefit the business. Okay. All right, now we can move forward. So now we're at work schedule redesign. Okay, so there are a variety of, so when you're designing a job and you're figuring out exactly, what the duties are and all of that, let's say you've already come past that point. So you figured out the duties, you figured out everything that you're gonna, have this job take care of. Now comes the part about work schedule. How are you going, what kind of work schedule are you going to give to your employees? Are you going to make them do like the traditional 9 to 5? Or might there be other ways that we can handle this? There are many ways in which you can kind of like redesign work schedules in such a way that it actually becomes more flexible and more desirable for other employees. Now, some jobs out there you can't do this with. Okay, so some jobs out there, like in healthcare with nurses, or certain technicians and maybe physicians and whatnot, you can't change their work schedule design. However, a lot of other types of positions you can do that with, like maybe like data entry and sometimes customer service, if it's more of like a call center type of a job. So there are a lot of different jobs that you can sort of change the work schedule to make it more favorable for the employee. Okay, and that actually helps that employee's situation a lot, because maybe they have, maybe they have kids, maybe they have, other responsibilities besides their work. So if you allow their schedule to be a little bit flexible, then they might be able to do a better job. Okay, and they won't be as stressed. So it's a really good idea to consider work schedule redesign. However, not every single employer is able to do this, especially in healthcare. Okay, especially with clinicians. and practitioners. They cannot always have this kind of work schedule redesign. Anyways, let's go over a couple that you can offer. Okay, so some employers like to offer a compressed work week. And what this is where you take all of your work days or all the work that you have to get done and you just condense it into just a couple days. Like, so instead of doing a 9 to 5 thing 5 days a week, maybe you can do like 12 hours only 3 days a week instead of 8 hours 5 days a week. You know what I mean? So you can compress it down to 3 days, and that way you have like 4 days. You let the employee, you know, live their life for 4 days, and then you have them for 3 days to complete this work. You can do something like that. Actually, that's what a lot of nurses get to do. Anyway, then there's flex time. So this is allowing your employees to pretty much pick their start and ending times. So let's say if you require them to work 8 hours a day, but you allow them to pick their start and ending time. So instead of going 9 to 5 every day, maybe you allow your employees to come into the office very early, maybe like 6 o'clock, and then they get to leave like at 2. So that way they can pick their kids up from work or from school or something like that, you know? So they can start, so they still have some day time left in their day, right? Then there's job sharing. Okay, so this is where you take 2 part-time employees, or basically you have 1 full-time position, right? And then you basically split that up and give it to 2 part-time workers. Okay, so that can also work. You have all the work shared between 2 people instead of just 1 person. And that way they can both, you know, spend less time working and, you know, more time on their life. And if they're okay with not working as much and not making as much money, why not, right? Then there's telecommuting, which is basically what we're doing now. Okay, what a lot of companies, what a lot of employees are doing now, because we're under quarantine at this moment. Of course, that's what I'm doing. So many other people are doing out there. So telecommuting is doing your work, but you're doing it in a remote location. You're doing it at home or wherever you are. Okay, you're able to use like your computer or any kind of, you're making use of any kind of technology, and you're taking work somewhere else and you're not doing it in the office. Okay, this helps. Actually, this is working quite well, especially, I'm sure it works really well for a lot of people, especially people who have families and other responsibilities that they have to take care of. It can get kind of inconvenient when you have to be at a certain place. This offers a lot of flexibility to your employees. Okay. Contingent workers. This is having employees that are not necessarily employees. Okay, these are workers that are on contract. Okay, so really these employees these workers are actually working independently. They are independent contractors. Okay, they do their own thing. They're not your W-2 employees, they're your 1099s. All right, so they usually what you would do with these employees is you have them on contract for a particular job maybe, or more temporary work, or even if it is kind of a permanent situation, they're not necessarily your employees. Okay, it's more of like a partnership that you contract with. Okay, and there's specific work that they have to get done for you. So in this situation, they also have somewhat flexibility, because they don't have to necessarily abide by your rules. Okay, they just have to get the work done that they're supposed to get done for you. So in some cases, it works out quite well. So anyways, that is the end of lesson 4. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you understand a lot of the concepts, and if you don't, please ask me questions in the comment section and also send me an email. All right, I will see you in lesson 5.